my service was different from Jeff's and from Tom's. Although I think Jeff might have been somewhat close to where I was. Jeff, did you ever get to Anwa out near the Laotian border?
Absolutely. That's
Okay,
where I worked at. I was 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines out of Anwa, Arizona.
Yeah, because I spent some time, I was with 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines, and my training was as a communications officer. I got into the Marine Corps by a rather unusual route. I was an undergraduate at Princeton University and decided that I would not only leave Princeton and join the Marine Corps, but I would enlist as a common private in the Marine Corps. So there I was. I left the beautiful campus in Princeton, New Jersey, got on a bus at about 2 o'clock in the morning, went down to Parris Island, where the Marine Corps recruit depot is, got off the bus, and this absolutely insane madman was screaming in my face, telling me how awful I was. And that was my introduction to the Marine Corps. And I was thinking, maybe that was not really what I should have done. But in retrospect, it turned out okay. I think I benefited by my service. I had 4 years in the Marine Corps. Bad things happened, and you learn to deal with that. But that's part of service. My job in the Marine Corps, although as a communications officer, I was with an infantry battalion for the first half of my 13 months there. Infantry battalion is, as Jeff indicated, a combat unit. We were located in the DMZ or just south of the DMZ. So the only enemy that we encountered was a North Vietnamese regular. Basically, it was a conventional enemy. They fought, they were well-trained, well-equipped, and certainly a formidable foe. Our life was simple. Jeff had to deal with booby traps and landmines and things like that. In the northern part of I Corps, I think I saw only one booby trap or one landmine the whole 13 months I was there. It was a booby trap. And you don't, because you're engaged in a more conventional type of combat, you just don't see booby traps because that would impact the North Vietnamese as much as it would impact us. The fighting was intense, no question about it. And I think Jeff is being unduly modest in his description of what he did because as a Marine, we relied on the Navy corpsmen to keep us alive, frankly, on too many occasions. And when the shit hits the fan, the one guy that has to get up and do something is the Navy corpsman. And that's not something you really want to do. The likelihood of being injured or killed is pretty high. So as a Marine, I have the highest regard for the Navy corpsmen. On more than one occasion, I saw their valor, and I can't tell you enough of how truly heroic these people were back in the Vietnam era. The second half of my tour, I transferred from 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines over to 3rd Recon. Now, in Recon, our mission was quite different. We would normally patrol in 6-man units, and our job was not to engage the enemy, but to gather intelligence about their troop movements, their supply routes, their hospital systems, their food supply systems. And if you did engage in some sort of combat activity, it meant you basically screwed up, because your job is to go unseen and stay out of sight, get back and report what you saw. Unfortunately, the North Vietnamese had some intelligence into our operations, so that most of our recon patrols were compromised at some point or another, because basically they knew where we were going and what we were doing. One of the jobs I had with 3rd Recon was I'd go out the day before, a couple days before, and do what they call an overflight. You fly over the reconnaissance zone that your team is going to have to penetrate, and you look for landing zones, you look for ambush sites, and you look for different terrain that might be of use to you. Those flights were conducted by Army, usually warrant officers. The Marine Corps at that point didn't have enough assets to use their own helicopters for the reconnaissance function. And these helicopter pilots that the Army had were just phenomenal. I mean, these were kids who 2 weeks before were in high school driving their hot rods down the street, and then they put them in a helicopter, and these guys are fearless. They're absolutely fearless. But they also used to like to torment the Marine Corps as well. On these overflights, we would go out in a Huey, a slick, with no seats, no doors, and you'd be sitting there with your legs dangling out, and these Army warrant officers would like to do what they call auto-rotate, which means they basically shut the engine down, and they don't tell you that they're going to do this, and it scares the piss out of you. All of a sudden, you're sitting in this open doorway, and all of a sudden the helicopter is falling away from you. They got a good chuckle out of that. So anything they could do to embarrass the Marine Corps, they tried to do that. But they were also good pilots. They knew what they were doing, and they were good at what they did. My experience did expose me to things that were not good, things that troubled me at the time, and from time to time still do bother me. It's kind of bizarre. I hate to admit it. It sounds like I'm a sissy, but I have a hard time going to a 4th of July celebration. There's something about the fireworks and the sound and the percussion of the bigger explosions that kind of rocks my boat. And I don't, I guess it's part of being a veteran, part of having gone through that. And yet you learn to deal with it. I had the pleasure of serving with some tremendously heroic people, some people that were very good at what they did, looked after each other. I can't say enough for that part of the experience, but if you ever consider military service, there's a lot to be said for it, and there's a lot to be said against it. Obviously, in my case, I was brought up with service to country. That was a very important consideration, and I hope that spirit can survive and be passed on to subsequent generations, to the people in high school and college today. I hope they have a sense for service to country. But there's also the downside, the darker side, and that entails two things. Number one, you enlist, there's a chance you might get killed. And that's not that's not what you really want to sign up for. That's part of being a combat soldier. And the other, and I think Jeff alluded to this, the other dark side or downside to it is, at some point in time, you're probably going to have to take another person's life. And I can't speak to your personal beliefs, but for me, life is sacred. And there's a disconnect. If your job requires you to take life, and yet you believe that life is sacred, you're going to have to figure out how to resolve that. It's not something that is easily addressed. But again, I hope that service to country is on your radar. I hope that it doesn't have to be military. It can be Peace Corps, it can be other service organizations. But look beyond your own little world. Look beyond what you're doing today, and ask yourself, can I serve? Can I be of use? Can I be of value to somebody else? If you can answer that question in the affirmative, I think you'll be a lot better off. I think you'll find life is tremendously rewarding, despite the challenges. Life can be good. But I kind of got away from Vietnam. Sorry about that. That's kind of what I did while I was over there. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
some help, you know. So and that's the way it helped for me. And it was, like I said, it's been really it came on gradual. It was little things, and then blood doesn't work for me. Like even in the groceries, I don't eat meat, but I try to stay away even from that meat section in the supermarket. I don't want to see blood. I don't want to smell blood. I don't want to go where they're cutting the meat up. I want to stay away from the deli. The smell will do something to me. And when I was in Iraq, they were burning the oil field. So that smell of things burning bothers me. So it was little things like that kind of triggered mine. Yeah. Thanks. Good question. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Al. Anyone else want?
Lighting up there for a minute. Brett, you got something to throw in here?
Well, my situation is different. And I think, let me explain why I think it was different. I don't believe that I had any awakening moment, had any traumatic crossroads after I got back from Vietnam. And the reason for that was pretty simple. When I signed up, I knew what I was getting into, although I did not know the enormity of it. I was able to accept the fact that war is not good. And yet I had committed to be in that place at that time. I recognized, or I went through a mental process where I said, okay, this has the potential for being bad. And it turned out, yes, that was the case. It had the potential for being not just bad, but very bad. And so I went through a process of rationalizing what I was doing and the potential negatives that were part of that enlistment, that process. What I was not prepared for was the unexpected. And from time to time, something would happen to me that would trigger a recollection. I don't consider that to be, the term post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, somehow I was able to disconnect, and I don't know. I don't feel that I ever experienced that PTSD. I know from time to time I've been bothered by unexpected recollections, but that's part of life. You got to understand that you get up in the morning and inside yourself you have the potential for good and you have the potential for bad. The choices you make during the day will determine whether or not you exercise the evil inside you or whether you exercise the good that's inside you. And you have to make a commitment to every day to make choices that put you in the right direction. And if you can commit to that, I think whatever negative experiences that you have had in the past can be contained in a box someplace that can be held in check so that they don't disrupt you. Now, again, my experience is different from that others have experienced, and I honor that. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is when you commit to a military enlistment, do so with your eyes open. Know that there's going to be good, there's going to be bad. And when you finish that obligation, that commitment, conduct the rest of your day with the same eyes wide open approach. You have the potential to do good in your day. You have the potential to do bad in your day. It's up to you. Make the choice when you first get up and say, I might not be perfect. I know there's bad inside me, but I'm going to do everything I can to make choices to push me in the good direction and away from the bad direction. So again, my situation, my experience from my time in Vietnam has impacted me differently from that of other people. And you know, I respect what they're having to struggle with, and I hope they understand the way I've been dealing with it.
Thank you. Tom, you're muted there, sir.
Brett, you want to say something about the book that you've written? It sort of parallels what you've said.
Well, this is another life. Yes, about 6 or 7 years ago, probably 8 years ago now, I was aware of what I considered to be a disturbing trend in my country, in the United States. I was aware that people were being told, oh, you're not responsible for your choices. Your choices don't have any consequences. It's not your fault. Don't worry, somebody else will fix it. And that kind of bothered me. It was a trend that I thought was potentially dangerous. So I wrote a book. It was a workbook designed to encourage people to make positive choices, to make smart choices. And I wrote a beta version of it and showed it to a couple of people that were successful, that people I respected. And I kept hearing the same thing. They said, Brett, it's a great idea, but can you do an inmate version? Or somebody would say, Brett, great idea. Can you do a youth version? Or can you do a faith-based version? And it meant that over time, I developed 6 different versions of the original workbook. It's a simple workbook. It basically takes the 26 letters of the alphabet and it assigns a responsibility word to each letter. For example, the letter D, I'm responsible for my debts. Okay, I write a little bit about that on the left page, and I leave the right page blank so that the user of the workbook can write his own thoughts, put his own ideas down. The letter I, I'm responsible for my identity, and I write something about my ideas, and then I leave the facing page blank. The letter G, I'm responsible for my goals. And each one of the 6 versions that I've produced follows the same format. It's been fun because we placed the workbooks in a number of juvenile reentry programs in the state of Indiana. A number of faith-based organizations are using it. And I've been blessed to see how this thing has begun to play out and how it's really, I think, helping people when they make their choices as they go through life. But believe me, when I started this project, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I mean, I was totally clueless. And along the way, I had help. The first version, for example, an industrialist in Kansas City said, Brett, I want to do an inmate version. Can you write one for me? And I said, yes, but I said, how do you do that? And he got me into the Leavenworth prison system. And I was in Leavenworth for 4.5 hours with 2 inmates, and they were phenomenal. They shredded the book. They basically told me how lame it was, but they helped me write that version. And then when I got into somebody wanted to do a youth version, same thing. I got together a couple high schools and did some focus group studies and learned how really old I was in the process, but still they helped me write a youth version. And same with a faith-based version. I had an ordained minister give me 26 scriptural references for each one of the 26 letters of the alphabet. So step by step, every time I've come to a roadblock, somebody stepped in and helped me overcome that. And if you sit down and decide you want to do a project of your own one day, be prepared to come up short, but also be prepared to look around and have people step up and help you achieve what you're trying to achieve. It's been a wonderful experience for me to see this workbook come together, but it could not have happened without the help of dozens of people along the way, and for them I'm very thankful.
I'd like to just point out that theme has been going throughout this conversation of people relying on other people. And even so much so that when you were in the same country of Vietnam, in different areas of the country, you still were relying on each other. And I'm just hearing, I wanted to point out how much teamwork is involved in getting through the difficulties, but also then helping down the line those who have yet to have them.
Amen.
Yeah, Brett Lunger here. Let me just address that, because that's a very important point. Marine Recon, unless we were going into a really bad area, we would just be six people on the team. Sometimes 8 if you knew you're going to have contact. But you go for 3 or 4 or 5 days and not even talking. Try that. Try going 24 hours without talking. And yet you communicate by hand signals with your teammates. They know what you're going to do. You know what they're going to do. You trust them. You rely on them. And they are there for you, and you're there for them. That's something that Recon pounds home every day.
Yeah.
Jeff, what's worked for you? Following the war?
Well, I was one of those cases. I literally came home from Vietnam and got out when I hit stateside, and that's a bad thing to do because you go from the boonies to the street, and it's just two different worlds colliding, and I really had a hard time for a while. And my first wife hadn't waited for me to come home, so my world was sort of topsy-turvy for a while, and I kind of boxed it all up and retracted and went to counseling, the whole 9 yards, and it just started coming out of it. And I spent 22 years building with Habitat for Humanity and doing that with my kids at church, summer trips. And I've got a men's group at my church for almost 15 years now, taking care of the facilities, and it is, so it's reliance with one another, skills, just as every day people would show up at the Habitat site, a bunch of people with different skills. And I have met some of the finest people in the world that have, given me reason to be okay. And I just think trying to live life in a positive way has helped. It's that simple. Has it always plagued me? Yeah. Tom, I don't think we've had the conversation, but about a month ago, a priest at the VA gave me absolution for my losses and kills. And it was quite a seminal moment for me. It didn't release me completely, but it certainly turned the key.
Yeah.
And it took a load off of me that somehow was absolved. So I've lived it out the hard way most of the way, but I've sought counseling on the way, and I've done a whole lot of stuff for other people, and been involved with people who have a lot to give, and some people who need help. I've gotten to know an awful lot of families building homes for 22 years, and it's kept me sane.
Yeah.
But I'm like Brett. I don't do well on 4th of July. I can't stand 4th of July.
Right.
It's
I went back to Vietnam in 2012, not with military people, but with some college groups.
Yeah.
And I was doing quite well with no, remembrances until I visited and was near Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City, as it's now called.
Yeah.
There was a shooting gallery up there for tourists, and it was the sound of the guns, and I didn't like that. I had to get away from that.
Yeah. Well, I was a lifetime hunter. I grew up as a little kid learning to go to the field. I can't hunt anymore. I don't do it. And I was out in the woods most of my life, and I was back here probably 3 years when I was one of the early PAs in this country, and I had a gal that I was dating in PA school, and she said, "Let's go to North Georgia and camp out." And I will tell you that weekend I was on edge the whole time because I was waiting to find somebody lurking up the trail or holding an ambush. I mean, and I can take a walk in the woods now and not really feel that, but there's still a little edge back there.
I used to live out in Falkland Heights, in the woods, and when I got back from Vietnam, I love to walk in the woods, but it was very difficult, as you were just expressing. It was difficult to do that. So I would go into the woods like about 20 yards, and I start to feel spooked, and I'd walk out quickly, and then the next day I would walk maybe 25 yards into the woods.
Yeah.
And, I kept that up until I desensitized myself. Yeah.
I'd like to point out another thing that I'm seeing in common amongst all four of our speakers today is that all of you are involved in service of some sort. And what's interesting is that the military is called service, as Brett, I think, pointed out. But, you know, service is being a pastor, service is being a politician, service is building houses for humanity, service is writing workbooks for people who are in jail or incarcerated. So I think maybe a theme that's coming out here is that, you know, I think might have been Brett again who was talking about that all of us have inherently a choice to make. Are we going to be of service of evil or of service of good today? And what I'm seeing is that the choice, once you decide to make that choice, a real great way to see through being a person of good is through connecting with service of some sort. And what's also great is that there's 4 different versions of service here. And Dr. Cuff, who I know is listening on the line, she and I are both in a Lions Club, which is the world's largest service organization. And so I just want to make sure that when we're thinking about things that we might do that make us feel bad, there are things we can do every day that counter that to make us feel good. And I sometimes call it corrective action, karma recovery, whatever you want, what do you want to call it? But if you can stack the numbers that by the end of your life, you have done so many wonderful things, it will outweigh in your heart, maybe some of the other things, or at least you will know that you have contributed things that you feel really great about to counter those things that you might be questioning.
Your point is very well taken. When we organized the Interfaith Veterans Workgroup, we wondered what should we call ourselves. We started because the suicide rate amongst veterans was so high. At that time, about 22 veterans each day in the country would kill themselves. And that's horrible. And we wanted to do something about that. And we all agreed that one thing that would help would be to encourage service, to encourage each person to seek some way in the community to give one's time and skills to something positive. And that's why we call ourselves a work group. And we call ourselves Interfaith because so much of the battles today, certainly since the Gulf Wars, are between people of different religions. And we wanted to be a model of interfaith cooperation. I had planned to have a 5th veteran with us today. His name was Umar Hassan El. He had a different name coming up in West Center City, Wilmington. He grew up as a Baptist, but converted to Islam after his Vietnam service. And he converted because he found that Islam was his way of serving. And he eventually became an imam. Unfortunately, he contracted the COVID virus and died, I would say less than a week ago. He would have been a wonderful input to this gathering today. But yes, service and also a spiritual dimension to one's life, however that gets worked out, It might not even be religious. It might simply be something very, very deep and very individual, but spiritual, yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention, go ahead, please, Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to tell you, when you're having a bad personal day, and as a Stephen minister, you have to go out and deal with somebody else who is under crisis, it certainly changes your perspective for the moment.
I don't want to diminish anybody's experiences in any part of life, but the stories that we've already heard today are so out of my comfort zone. It has just made me realize how small some of the challenges I thought were in my life, how small they really are.
I guess we've said about.
I think, is Al saying something there? You're muted, my friend.
And I was going to say, I know for me, it's changed me where I don't want to kill anything anymore. My wife can cry, there's a spider in the house. I'm going to go get that spider, grab it in the napkin and carry it outside. I don't want to kill anything. And that's my promise I made to my God. I'm not going to kill anything. I'm not going to step on the ant if I can help it. I don't want to do it anymore. I want to give life. That's my goal for my remaining years. I will not purposely kill anything right now. So ladybugs, everything gets a pass in my house right now. I'm not killing anything. So.
I love that. Yeah. Why don't we, we're getting ready to wrap up. And I would like to hear just like that, maybe some little tidbits that you use to help you out. So in case any of these guys might be feeling down about anything, just simple activities or ways to look at something that might give them a little bit of something to look forward to.
Writing and staying positive and surround yourself with positive people. You know, negativity sucks the energy out you. So I would say surround yourself with some positive fears. And when you're going through something, please, I mean, seek and write it down. And, you know, we all have these amazing thoughts, you know, write them down. Right. You know, so that I know that's what's helped me get through it is my writing. God gave me this gift to write poems, and I'm able to take so much of the stress and strain and some of that pain and trauma that I have went through and just put it on paper, and it makes me feel better, and it makes me feel better.
Your thing, express yourself through art, through drawing, or through clay, or some other means. The arts have been very helpful to me.
And Tom's a great photographer, by the way, and continues to grow in that field. How about you, Jeff? Any things that you do to?
Well, I manage to stay busy. I'm retired, but I stay busy. And that kind of, I mean, for instance, our church just purchased a house adjacent to our property, which will be used for people in transition. We already have two houses on the property. And we've spent a lot of time. Today was turnover day. And we've spent a lot of time getting that house ready for occupation and dragging in beds and setting them up and making them up and dragging in furniture and stuff.
Say it again, Jeff.
If I
lost you.
Say again?
Yeah, say again.
What was that, Tom?
You broke up at the end, yeah.
Oh, well, it just, I think that if I sit around with my thumb in my ear, I'll get unhappy. If I stay busy and I'm doing positive thing around positive people, there you go, Al. Stay positive with positive people. You can't help but feel better. And it even when I come home tired and sore, it's a good tired and sore.
Right.
And it's never a bad thing.
I have a question for Brett.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah, this is Brett.
Yeah, Scott,
I think there's a common theme here. I think each one of the four of us recognizes that we do not know how much time we have left on this planet.
Nope.
You get up in the morning, you do not know whether this day is going to be your last day. And for that reason, I think each one of us is motivated to make the most of what we do have. And when I say make the most, that means giving back to people that are in need. Surely we've been blessed. You know, we have food on the table and a lot of people don't. So find a way to give back. Stay engaged. That's what, I think that's what Jeff said. And as far as Al's respect for life, I would take one exception to that, Al. I have no trouble killing moths because the moth gets in my closet. The moth eats these big holes in my sweater. Then I put my sweater on. I look like a clown. So anytime I see a moth, not only do I step on it, I step on it twice. So maybe I need to do some work on that one. But seriously, stay engaged, find ways to contribute, and understand that we do not know how much time we have. And for that reason, we have to make the most of the time that we do have.
Amen.
And to double down on that, the fact that one of our guests is now no longer with us is just a timely reminder of how precious this is. And that's why at the beginning, gentlemen who are in the class, you have to seek out knowledge. And you said at the beginning, thanks for bringing jewels. The jewels don't always come to you, you know, like we had to get Tom to put together this group. We put work together to bring these jewels to you. So I hope that you all start to hunt for those jewels in the same way. I'm hearing arts, action, service, just wrapping yourself around positivity. These are all wonderful ways to actually have a happy life with whatever your past is, I think, as well.
Yeah.
That's right.
So there's one point I did want to mention that I hadn't mentioned, is when you are seeking out this knowledge, if you guys are asking people about their history, Jeff and I had a conversation before the call, and he informed me that there is one question that you just never should ask a veteran. And I wanted to make sure that we talked about that so that you don't make that mistake. And that is, you never ask how many people a veteran had to kill. It's just not an appropriate question. And so, as you saw today, we were able to have a wonderful conversation that was quite deep, but those numbers are not, that's not important. What is important is how can we heal from things that we've done. And so sometimes in your language, when you're asking people, think about that this is someone who's healing. How can I talk to them in a way that we can get the information, but without adding more pain to it necessarily? Gentlemen, I know what they actually had some questions for you that you all pretty much asked, had answered. I did just want to wrap it up. Would anyone, we're going to be making a video out of this. It'll probably take us some time. Anyone have any closing remarks that they'd like to say before we sign off?
Pierce here. I want to say I appreciate all four of you for sharing your personal lives with us. We appreciate it.
That's a surprise. I was talking to the guests, but go ahead, students. What do you have to say? What do you have any?
We thankful for all y'all coming today. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, that made me feel good. I was they were on mute, and I was just crossing my fingers that they were paying attention. But actually, I know they were, because these are the three young men. I have great respect for these young men. And guess what? They're going to get a chance to make this video into something that can help people. So the how far will these ideas and thoughts go, we're not sure, but I'm so excited that the three young men there are part of now. This is service. You're now doing service by helping spread this message.
Amen.
Scott?
Yes.
I might say, do these three young gentlemen have any questions at this point?
Yeah, so are there any questions that we did not ask? We have about 10 minutes left if you have any questions.
No, they said everything that we needed to hear. They did.
Go get them, guys.
Yeah.
They did a good job.
We look
All
forward.
right. I also would like to request, I'd like to purchase one of the of Brett's books so that we can bring it in to the school so that we have it as a resource. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
Scott,
thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Scott, I can go one step further. When we get our travel back, I'd be happy to come and not only show the guys the workbook, but also talk to them about some of the experiences behind it and share some of the things that I've gone through in making choices. I'd be happy to do an in-person with that. But meanwhile, I'll go ahead and send you a workbook.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
God, thank you so much for setting this up, coordinating with the school. And I'm sure I speak for all the veterans on this call that we're eager for the pandemic to be over so that we can meet in person with them.
Dr. Cuff, as she had to sign out for a 2 o'clock meeting, but she did write me saying that this was great and that she wishes all the students could have heard. Thanks for the greatness to all of you, she had written.
Thank you.
Yep. Well, I'll go one extension further if I might, Scott.
Please.
I'm only a mile from you. I'm over at Falkland and DuPont Roads. If you need something, please feel free to call.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
If this develops questions from one or more of your guys, no problem.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for your service to the country, for your service to us today and coming in. And there's no question, I'm goosebumping on how much aha moments I've had today from this conversation. And thanks to you again, Mr. Mills, for pointing out one of the connections, which was that we're very aware that there's post-traumatic stress happening in the streets of Wilmington. And so that there's, lots of studies about this right out of the University of Delaware with Dr. Yasser Payne and many other people proving that some of the same emotional experiences that happen in combat zones are happening in the quote unquote combat zones of some of the neighborhoods. So thanks for making that connection in case the students hadn't already done that. I just can't thank you enough. I look forward to hopefully doing some more of these things. But you all let me know how I can help spread these messages as well.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, well, we're going to sign out. I'm going to sign out with all of the speakers, and I'm just going to follow up with the youth for 1 minute afterwards, just to wrap them up. Thanks, everybody.
Be safe and be well.
Take care.
Take care. Chris.
Scotty.
All right, turn your camera on, boys. All right, very, very, very good job, guys. Thank you so much. Excellent to
Scott.
Yes.
They was good, bro. They was good, bro.
Weren't they? I mean, they're the real deal. They're the real deal.
They was open.
Tell me more about what you guys thought about what they said now that they're not here. You could like real talk it.
It was open and honest.
They've done some really serious things, and I mean, I can't imagine having to deal with some of the stuff that they're having to deal with. And the thing that blows my mind is, I'm not kidding. I know 2 of those guys from being community service people, and then I found out they were veterans. Like, do you guys ever see the Twin Poets? They have 2 movies about them. That guy. There's 2 movies out about Al Mills.
Put it up there. Put it up there.
We'll watch that. We'll watch that tomorrow. Hey
Can you put it up
guys,
there?
listen. You guys represented. There's going to be we're having as long as everything's good, we're bringing that pizza party over on Friday for us to party our birthdays together.
Yeah, Scotty still got it recording too.
I still do have a recording because I'm glad I want to get some of your comments to show those guys. You guys, thank you for honoring these people who came to, like, you really.
Tell Tom, Jeff, and Mr. Mills.
That's right.
Tell them we said thank you.
You guys, I care about you. This was a big day I'm telling you, there's a whole group, national group, studying moral injury. They've invited Tom to be on their this is out of California. They have already asked when this video is going to be finished.
Yeah, this video?
Yeah, the one that you guys are going to make. So we're going to take that video, and then when they're talking about Vietnam, we'll show pictures of Vietnam. We'll show pictures of all the stuff that they had to go through. Do you guys have any reference of, like, when they're talking about the Mekong Delta, do you guys have any visualizations of what that looked like? Did you ever see any Vietnam War movies?
No.
All right, so I'm gonna bring in some clips from that.
I'm gonna watch Jarhead when I go back to the college.
So Jarhead is more about where Al Mills was. That's Iraq. Those other 3 guys were in Vietnam, which is like a jungle war. So the 3 guys were in the jungle and 1 guy was in the desert.
Yeah, with all the mines.
Yes. Yep. All right. You guys, you 100% made me very proud today and honored to be your teacher and your friend and your mentor, whatever I am. Thank you. So let's party on Friday.
Hey, we got you, Scotty.
Dude, I got you. I'll talk to Miss Holt about our special party on Friday.
Scott, you know we getting a new intake tomorrow?
No, did not know that.
Yeah, we get a new one tomorrow and a girl on Friday.
Do I know who the new intake is?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You don't work down Stevenson, do you?
Not yet.
You going to?
Probably eventually, right? We're growing.
Yeah.
You guys, you should be proud of yourself. Thank you very much. All right, I'm gonna sign off. You guys have a great day.
You too.
Thanks to the staff in there. All right. Really impressed by you guys today. You really, really knocked it out of the park. Thank you.